With the NBA draft lottery in around 10 days, I wanted to do a video reacting to your guys' 2024 NBA draft hot takes. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Yesterday on Twitter, I tweeted out for you guys to give me your 2024 hot takes. Thank you to everybody that replied to the tweet. We got over 150 entries, and I selected 10 of them that we are going to react to for this video. And if you guys do enjoy this, I plan on doing another one after the draft lottery, so just drop a thumbs up on this video. The first one comes from Cameron, and he says that Jared McCain is the best shooter in this draft class and comfortably should go in the top 10. And honestly, I'm going to agree with Cameron here. I do believe that Jared McCain has best shooter in this class potential. I think he's right up there with Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, and Dalton Knecht. But I love how quick and shifty McCain is with the ball. He reminds me a lot of Emmanuel Quickley when he was at Kentucky. McCain for the Duke Blue Devils this past season put up 14 points on 46% shooting from the field, 41% from three, and is an elite free throw shooter. He was 89% from the line this past season. He had a true shooting percentage of 61%. If you watch any Duke film from last season, you could watch him work without the ball, with the ball. He's got a great catch and shoot form. He could shoot off the dribble. He could pull up in transition. McCain could do it all shooting wise. So I think he should go in the top 10. If it would be at 9 or 10. I don't think he's going to be a top 8 player in this class because there's some question marks defensively and his inside finishing, but McCain has elite shooting traits, and I agree with Cameron there that he can be the best shooter in this draft. It's tough though because I love Dillingham and I love Shepherd, but McCain is right there. Next one comes from Boris Sturk Podcast, and he says that Ron Holland is in a tier of his own as the #1 prospect in this draft. So if you guys have watched any of my videos as of late, you guys know that I'm a huge Ron Holland fan in this draft. I do not think he's in a tier of his own though, so I'm going to disagree with the Boris Sturk Podcast here, but I do have Ron Holland as my second ranked prospect in this draft, in a tier with Alex Sarr as guys I would take #1 overall. Holland is the most athletic player in this class, and we saw how much that worked out for guys that had questions with their outside shot last year, and a Men Thompson and a Sword Thompson. Both of those prospects would probably go #1 in this class. Ron Holland is great in transition. He's great as a pick and roll ball handler as well in the half court set. He can cut, he can post up, he can slash, he can score at will inside. He's actually a fine isolation player as well. He does need to work on his spot up jump shot or have that 3-point shot actually develop. He would have been in hindsight the clear #1 player in this class. The next one's going to come from Paul, and he says the draft itself will be either on the same level or worse than the 2000 NBA draft. So if you don't know about the 2000 NBA draft, it was pretty much the gold standard for just being a bust of a draft before 2013 came along. But 2013 ended up getting Giannis out of it. The top players from this draft class were Michael Redd, who went 43rd overall, Mike Miller, who went 5th overall, and Hedo Turkoglu, who went 16th overall. And shout out to Jamal Crawford, one of the best 6-man of all time, who went 8th overall. And personally, I think this draft class will be better than that. Do I think that anybody will be maybe as good as like Michael Redd or Jamal Crawford individually? I'm not sure, but I do think this class is way deeper than that class was. There pretty much ended up being just 7 to 8 rotational guys from that draft class, and I can tell you right now that at least 10 of these guys in this class, like Devin Carter, Reed Shepherd, Jared McCain, who we mentioned before, Ron Holland, Alex Sarr, Tyler Smith, and some others, will be rotational guys on their second contract and then some. So I don't think that this draft class will be worse than the 2000 NBA draft. That may be a hot take from me. So before we get back into the video, I want to give a word from today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. With the NBA playoffs finally being here, Underdog Fantasy is by far the easiest way to play fantasy sports and enjoy playoff basketball. And if I'm going to be going to any playoff game this season, or if I'm going to be watching it with some friends, or even just watching it by myself, I'm going to be using Underdog Fantasy as well throughout it. And Underdog's Pick'em game is my favorite way to play fantasy sports right now and enjoy a game a little bit more. You go to the Pick'em tab on the Underdog Fantasy website or app, and you pick either a player will have a higher or lower stat total in that game they are playing in for a chance to win big. You can pick between 2 to 5 players in your Pick'em entry, and you can win up to 20 times your money on a single game if you get all your picks right. And Underdog has a great promo for you guys. If you use my link in the description below, you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100 using code SROS, SROS. It's kind of a no-brainer. They also do new customer specials as well that you can be on the lookout for, where you can get a promo for just maybe a Nikola Jokic, a Luka Doncic, or somebody playing throughout the NBA playoffs to get over 0.5 points. So that is a nice thing that Underdog Fantasy does for you guys as well. So yeah, that's a 100% deposit match up to $100 if you use code SROS, SROS, and make sure you use Underdog Fantasy throughout the NBA playoffs this season. The next one comes from Ant, and he says if the Grizzlies draft either Sarr or Klingon, they will be the best team in the West next year, not named the Nuggets, with Ja, Bane, McCain, Smart, Triple J, and one of either Klingon or Saar at the 5. He would take them over any other team not named the Nuggets. And I like where he's coming from. I do think we gotta give the Grizzlies some respect. They were the most injury-riddled team this past season. They're gonna be getting Ja back fully healthy. Obviously, we know how good Triple J can be on the defensive end of the floor, and Desmond Bane is an off-ball shooter. And Marcus Smart's elite defense, and you get one of the better rim projectors in this draft, like Klingon or Saar, and now you could bump Triple J back to the 4. That's a damn good team. And I do think that team could compete in the Western Conference, but I will not say it's the best non-Nuggets team next year. I would have to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the way Anthony Edwards is playing, and the OKC Thunder, the way that young core looked this year, and they were just the 1 seed, so still got to give them the respect. So yeah, I do think that Memphis could be a top 4 team in the West next year if they're able to get Saar or Klingon. I just can't put them ahead of the Timberwolves, Nuggets, or Thunder going into next year's season. The next one comes from Stevie, and he says that Tristan Silva of the Colorado Buffaloes will have a better rookie season than at least 10 players drafted ahead of him. And right now, Tristan Silva is projected to go in like that 18 to 25 range in the first round. And after watching Silva's film over the last couple of days, I'm a huge fan of it, and I would definitely justify him going in the top 20 in this draft. So depending on where Silva goes, yeah, he could have a better rookie season than any of the 10 guys ahead of him because he can play make. He's got a good 3-point shot, a smooth looking jumper. He's a physical rebounder. He's a good free throw shooter. He could do a little bit of everything. I don't think he has as high of a ceiling than his Buffalo teammate Cody Williams in this class, but definitely a higher floor. And I'm a big fan of De Silva as well. Cam Reddish season says Rob Dillingham will end up being a top 5 point guard in the league in a couple of years. Now, I love Rob Dillingham. You guys know from the start of this season, I was a huge fan of Rob Dillingham. And while I'm starting to like Reed Shepherd more than him, and I would take Reed above Dillingham in this class, I don't think that Dillingham will be a top 5 point guard in a couple of years. I don't think he will be a top 10 point guard in this league. There's a lot of good point guards in this league, and in a couple of years, is he going to be better than LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? And like all those guys are younger than 26 years old, and Scoot Henderson in last year's class as well is around the same age as Dillingham. So top 5, yeah, that's a stretch, but I do think Dillingham will be one of the best shooters in this class and is a pretty safe prospect overall. The next one comes from BrownsC Super fan. He says this draft class is not as weak as everyone is making out to be, just has some unknown overseas prospect with a lack of hyped up college players. It is also overshadowed by having Wemby and Scoot in last year's draft. And I agree with him here. Obviously, Wemby in last year's class had a generational prospect in it, so obviously this class, not having anybody even close to Wemby, is going to really diminish the hype of it. And we do have a ton of international prospects in this class, like Nikola Topic, Zachary Sachet, and Alex Sarr, who all have at one point in this season been projected to go number 1 overall in this draft. But I think that goes back to my 2000 draft comparison point. I don't think that this draft is going to have multiple elite players and multiple Hall of Famers one day, but I do think we can get 15 to 20 good rotational players over the course of this class's history. All right, we have one from Jay. It's about Zach Edey. We had to get one in here. You guys gave me a ton of Zach Edey bold takes, going from that he's the best prospect in this class to not even being worth a first rounder, and that's what Jay says here, and he mentions that Zach Edey falls out of the first round. And I'm going to disagree with Jay here. I do believe that he's going to go in the first round. He did just put up 25 points and 12 rebounds last year for Purdue. This isn't really an elite big man class by any means, and I know he's going to be a little bit slower on the defensive end of the floor, but he still has crazy length to be able to be a solid shot blocker right away. And a team that's looking to compete next year that needs some big man help, I think we'll draft Edey in the first round. Either that's New Orleans, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, or Phoenix. Hey, Washington needs a big man too, and they have a late first round pick, and that could be a prime spot for Zach Edey to go for sure. And that could be a fun fit as well on a bad Wizards team. We could see Edey get a ton of touches. I like this one from Oregon here. They mentioned that the rookie of the year will be in the second round, like Malcolm Brogdon from the 2017 season in the 2016 draft class. And obviously what's going to determine that is the fits of these players. How much opportunity are they going to get in their rookie season if they're going to be a second round pick? But some of the guys that are projected to go in the second round right now that I think could even flirt with the rookie of the year conversation: Jalen Tyson out of California, Dylan Jones out of Weber State, AJ Mitchell out of UC Santa Barbara, KJ Simpson out of Colorado, and Hunter Salas out of Wake Forest are all projected to go in the second round right now, and I think could be solid NBA players right away. And who knows, they may be a point in the year where their team has a ton of injuries and one of those guys is playing 30 minutes a night and starting every game and could have good enough stats to be in that rookie of the year conversation. So I do like this hot take. And lastly, we have one from NBA Draft Point. They mentioned that Kyle Palski is pretty overrated, too slow to be a 4, not strong enough to be a 5, will really need a good situation to be able to develop into his full potential, like OKC or New Orleans. And you could really say that about any prospect. Obviously, fit and where they get drafted to in their environment matters so much for their development. And I can definitely see why he wouldn't be appealing to some teams for sure. I do think sometimes he's a little flat-footed out there, a little slow to kind of go from box to box on the defensive end of the floor. And I do have some question marks about his outside jumper being consistent at the NBA level. level, and that's kind of what's going to separate himself from Kalo, where you see Zach Edey, Ethan Amansa, if he could be a consistent three-point shooter. But if you can't really keep that shot up, and he was not a good free throw shooter at Duke, he's not really going to be worth a top 20 pick. So I can definitely see the appeal of this hot take, and I kind of like it. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this. Let me know if you did by dropping a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about these hot takes that I mentioned. And yeah, let me know if you guys want to see this after the draft lottery as well, before the 2024 draft, when we know more about these prospects, at least when the general public knows more. Because, you know, we've been grinding film all year, and we love this class on the channel. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.